If you're operating a gym, you can't pay for DocuSign and pay for Calendly and pay for all these things and stitch them together and then make it work. Like you need one thing that works all together, but you can't pay a lot. So it's a very interesting problem to solve in the fact that like you've got to win one logo at a time. They're very price sensitive. They don't want to pay a lot of money, but they need everything and they need it to work really well.
Are you a scaling SaaS founder?
Ready to make the leap from leading a team to leading an organization? Join us each week as we refill your think tank with actionable tips and strategies from great business minds you know and those who don't know yet. This is SaaS Fuel with your host, 5-time entrepreneur, SaaS founder, and globetrotting adventurer, Jeff Maines.
Welcome back to the SaaS Fuel podcast, where taking time off during the holidays can seem less about rest and more about watching your email like a hawk, praying that no one notices you've been out of office since Thanksgiving. Anyone else ever forgotten to turn off their out of office message? Well, I'm your host, Jeff Maines. I'll be B2B SaaS founders like you grow from traction to scale. Here, growth is more than just numbers. It's about crafting a future-proof company, premium valuation, and leaders who build a business of significance while living epic, adventurous lives. Today, we're hitting the metaphorical gym because just like your body needs a good workout to stay strong, your mind needs one too. So whether it's pushing weights or pushing your limits with new ideas, growth only happens when you stretch. But here's the catch. Skipping leg day at the gym is bad, but skipping brain day, yeah, that's a real mental misstep. In this episode, we're exploring the parallels between fitness and entrepreneurship with someone who knows both worlds inside and out. From breaking down mental barriers to creating a strong foundation for growth, we'll dive into how principles like consistency, endurance, and adaptability can shape not just your body, but your business. Here's the big lift. What if the secret to scaling your company wasn't just about strategy, but about flexing your mental muscles and building a culture that thrives even under pressure? Stick around because this is one workout that your mind and your business won't want to skip. Grab your headphones, your coffee, or whatever fuels you, and by the end, you'll be rethinking how you hire, how you grow, and maybe even how you view that gym membership you keep meaning to use. The new year is just right around the corner. But here's a little teaser to mull over. If building a business is like training for a marathon, what happens when you're in an all-out sprint but forgot to tie your shoes? Let's unpack that. Our expert guest last Thursday was Will Christensen, founder of Entrepreneur's Apprentice. He broke down how to automate, delegate, and eliminate inefficiencies to scale your business effectively. We explored the rise of fractional leadership, AI's transformative impact on work, and how to build accountability systems that drive productivity. If you're looking to do more with less, and who isn't, then this episode is packed with actionable insights just for you and me. Our founder on Tuesday was Hikari Senju, founder and CEO of OmniKey. We explored how generative AI is transforming the advertising industry from building data-driven creative strategies to scaling brand engagement with AI. Hikari shared game-changing strategies that SaaS leaders can't afford to ignore. Hey, if you missed it, find out how AI could be the missing piece in your growth strategy. And we're not talking just generic ChatGPT queries either. Check it out. My guest today is Dan Uyemura. Dan went from running a gym to revolutionizing fitness software with PushPress, blending deep industry knowledge with cutting-edge SaaS expertise. In this episode, Dan shares his candid insights on leadership, hiring, and why long-term greedy thinking is the secret to sustainable success. Welcome someone who transformed his gym owner experience into a thriving SaaS business, Dan Uyemura. Hey, Dan, welcome to SaaS Fuel.
Thank you for having me. Looking forward to this conversation.
Well, your journey spans unique experiences from running a gym to creating PushPress, which is specifically for gym owners. What inspired you to take the leap from fitness operations to tech entrepreneurship?
Oh, it's probably this disease I have called entrepreneurialism. The reason I was a software engineer before I opened a gym. And the reason I did that is because it put me so close to being an entrepreneur. I got to build all the new stuff that was coming out and be part of kind of the startup scene. Got tired of that and decided to open a gym. And the first thing I did was look for software and when I was opening my gym, and entrepreneurialism just kicked right back in. And I said, I can do better than this, and just started building my own.
Nice. And so how has the technology changed since you started in the gym world? There's so much technology, not only in the gym itself, but also in fitness, doing fitness coaching. We have trackers that we have now, like fitness trackers that we're wearing all the time that talk to the machines that we work on. There's so much. So how has that evolved since you've been in the fitness world?
Shockingly, in the big picture, it hasn't evolved a ton. Although I do
Okay.
feel we're on the precipice of a lot of evolvement happening. I also feel like I started coding PushPress right when a major shift in a lot of technology had happened. Like cloud computing was a thing. Before like a year before we started PushPress, Stripe was not a thing. So like the way the billing rails and the payment rails that were facilitating transactions were very archaic. The iPhone had just come out a couple years previous. So like the idea of modular app design was a thing. So like we
Okay.
had come in right when all of these shifts of paradigms of how you would engineer something came out. And I think for the last decade, we've been like set, like now cloud computing is obvious. Like everyone does cloud computing, but back then it was like,
Right.
should we host or should we go cloud? We weren't sure at that point.
Yeah.
But now with AI coming, wearables, even they were a thing even back then. They're just getting better and better. But now we're starting to hit this inflection point where like wearables plus AI or wearables plus machine learning and computer vision and all this stuff is actually going to create the next tilt in the technology shifts. So I expect that to be coming soon.
Yeah. That's a very cool perspective. You have been around for quite a while in that space and really seen a big push or a big change in the way that software is delivered.
Yeah, if you erase the idea of AI in a commercial meaning, there haven't across all technology, like what is the last major technology shift that happened? I would say blockchain didn't really fulfill,
Yep.
and it might be the advent of the mobile phone and cloud computing. And it
Cloud
just takes us all the way
computing for
back,
sure.
takes us all the way back to 2006, 2008, like quite a ways back. So I do think we're pretty prime and ripe right now for some pretty big, we're about 20 years into the cycle. We'll probably
Yeah.
have some big shifts happening soon.
As you built PushPress and come to market and been successful, how have you looked at funding the company? Is it something, did you go outside? Did you bootstrap it? What was the thought process around that?
That's a funny one. So when we built it, to me, it was such an obvious problem that was so big that needed so much attention. It would be easy to raise money. I also, from the outside of the world, the VC world, my perception of venture capitalists they're basically like professional gamblers, like just throwing millions of dollars at this company and that company and just cowboys riding in on horses, throwing money around. I learned pretty quickly that's far from the truth. They're actually very risk adverse and they don't like to be the first one making a bet. Like they want to see some other proof that is happening. So when we started building PushPress, we thought it would be a shoe-in lock, really easy to go raise money to continue building this. And nothing was farther from the truth. We probably got laughed out of investor rooms for 5 years before we gave up raising money.
Wow.
And during those 5 years, I built a pretty big chip on my shoulder. These guys can't see the most obvious opportunity in the world. Screw them. I'm still going to figure it out.
I
So
love that.
we ended up bootstrapping it for about 8 or 9 years. It was during COVID. This is actually a funny story. One of those guys who basically said no to us, he never said no. But the first time I pitched him, we were at nothing. And he said, hey, why don't you come back and talk to me when you have $10,000 a month in revenue? Because by then we'll be able to see that you have escape trajectory. Those were his words, escape trajectory. And the minute I hit 10,000 revenue, I called him up, had a meeting with him, sat down, and he said, hey, this is all cool and all, but why don't you come back when you have 100,000 a month in revenue? Because then we'll know, and he literally said the same thing. Because then we'll know that you have escape trajectory. And in my mind, I'm like, you just told me that at 10x, mine like 10x ago. Anyways, come back at 100,000, call him up, come back. And he's, and this is all a cool story and all, but I think we'll pass. We're not interested. And so fast forward 2 years from then, he had heard from a friend of his who was going to looking to invest in us. Oh, you should look at this company. And he's, oh, I know them. And then he realized we had grown through COVID. This was in 2021. We grew through COVID. We were doing well still. And then he called me up because some of his friends were looking to invest. And the tone changed to, hey, when you take my money, we're going to do these things. There was no if, there was no nothing. It was just like, you're going to take my money and we're going to do these things. So it's just an interesting concept if you're looking to raise out there, that you really have to create this demand where someone else has bought in. You have to get one person to buy in and then everyone's going to buy in. But getting that first person to buy in is really hard.
Yeah. So was that an investor that you actually took on, or did you say, no, thank you, we're going to raise elsewhere?
No, we took him because all through the process, I really liked him. He's very insightful, super smart, like really smart guy. I would credit us being able to get from $1 million in revenue to $4 million in revenue pretty much from I worked with him every week, just did a weekly check-in call and worked with him. Great company, great guy. And yeah, we took their money. In hindsight, they got a great deal, and it's a win-win for everybody. Yeah.
That's good. You definitely want investors to win also, because that means everybody's going to win.
100%. One thing I'll say from the SaaS landscape, and I guess you can judge me one way or the other, but I've always foregone valuation for partner fit. So in fact, every round I've done, I think I left a lot of money on the table valuation wise. But having the right partners helping me with the right mindset that were aligned with how we want to build a business was more important to me than just the current valuation. So I think you're
absolutely right about that. And that's one of the reasons I ask about that partner. And I love the answer is, yeah, he's a great fit. And so it wasn't putting it off, but you liked him all along and it has been a good fit for the organization. Yeah. I think that is absolutely critical.
And I think that's a byproduct of, we were building a product for an industry we were part of and we believed in, and we were eating our own dog food in a lot of ways. And we had a lot of conviction in what we were doing. I feel like if I came from outside the industry and I was just trying to make a buck, all I would care about is valuation, because that directly tells me what I'm worth. But I do see a 20-year, I think I'm gonna be running this for the next 20 years. Like, I don't need to get in and out of this real quick. So valuation today is very short-term thinking, and it helps to build a business where you can think long-term.
Oh, without a doubt. And you make different decisions. So if it's all about maximizing the quarterly number or getting investors a return or getting in and out, I've got to have this done in 3 years. Way different decisions, way different choices that you even make, even from a development and product perspective, than you do if you're like, I'm going to be here 20 years and I want to be proud of what I built. I want to take care of our clients long-term. I want to build something with real long-term value. Yeah.
Honestly, I think this is the cheat code that if you're thinking about building a software business, most companies you're going to compete with are short-term thinking. So if you can actually align yourself on, this is my 20-year plan and I'm committed to this for 20 years, you can win, because you don't make decisions based on next quarter or even next year. You're making decisions based on the 5-year plan or the 10-year plan. And I literally think that's the cheat code. Like, we haven't done anything spectacular. We're just playing the long game, and we're playing against short-term thinkers. So we're winning.
And I think we talked about this last time that we chatted, and you talked about long-term greedy, just that philosophy of not being short-term greedy, like I've got to get it all right now, but it's really building something of value long-term.
Absolutely. Yeah. So long-term greedy is how we've always been. But when my Series A VC, this is a term, this is actually a Warren Buffett term, but my Series A VC, Altos, is a Warren Buffett like disciple. And so they introduced this term to me, and I think it's perfect, because the point is, you're not building your business per se for charity. Like, it still needs to be profitable. You still need to return to your shareholders, whether that's you as a bootstrapper or your investors, whoever.
Yep.
But you do so with the lens of the long term. And again, this is the cheat code. It's, what does long-term greedy mean? It means you stack as much value as you can as soon as possible and forever. You keep adding value. You keep attracting more customers because of all the value you're adding. You keep creating better goodwill and better brand recognition because you're doing that. And in the end, it all pays off, as opposed to being short-term greedy, where you're making just the wrong decision after wrong decision. Because how many of you have made a bet on the stock market, it goes the wrong way, and then you make the next decision, which is wrong again, and the next decision, which is wrong again, and now you're compounding your problems. That's short-term greedy thinking. Long-term greedy is, I'm going to buy this dividend reinvestment stock and just keep putting $100 a month into it, and at the end, you're a millionaire. It just happens.
It's definitely a different philosophy than most companies have going in. Most founders have. Get on the cover of TechCrunch and exit as quickly as possible at the highest valuation possible and let it be somebody else's problem. Not a great solution.
Exactly. That's exactly the mindset of long-term greedy and what we're trying to avoid. is you don't make decisions on some outcome that has to happen next quarter or next month.
Yeah. What have been some of the unique challenges? You knew the business and you knew the industry really well. Challenges building PushPress, and how did your experience as a gym owner inform and influence the software's development?
So challenges, I'll speak to that directly. We're basically working in a niche, a very niche market. I wouldn't say very, a niche market. We are working towards SMB specific. So it's a lot of hand-to-hand combat. We're selling one logo at a time. Very hard to do. These gyms don't make $1 million a year. So it's like they're very price sensitive. And they need everything under the sun to operate their business. So it's like they need scheduling, they need payments, they need recurring payments, and they need a point of sale. They need a way to manage their check-ins. They need data and analytics. They need wavering and documentation, contracts. They need like literally 100 things. And every one of those 100 things, someone has built $1 billion niche business on. But if you're operating a gym, you can't pay for DocuSign and pay for Calendly and pay for all these things and stitch them together and then make it work. You need one thing that works all together, but you can't pay a lot. So it's a very interesting problem to solve in the fact that you've got to win one logo at a time. They're very price sensitive. They don't want to pay a lot of money, but they need everything and they need it to work really well. And it's been a challenge. That's been the biggest challenge of like, how do you manage all, it's almost like that corollary of you can have it, what is the saying? You can have it good, you can have it fast, or you can have it cheap, pick two. Like our clients need all three. And so it's like, how do we deliver that? That is the challenge that keeps me up at night that I found to be very fun.
That probably also creates a bit of a moat for competitors that are looking at the space because there's just so much there. Just a point solution is not going to cut it because they really do need lots of pieces to do what they need to do without spending a bunch of money on a lot of subscriptions.
Yeah. It interestingly enough, you would think so, but we probably have 50 competitors and new ones are popping up every day. I think a lot of people don't understand how hard this business is to actually go to market and win and how much stuff you have to build. I didn't. If I can go back, I wouldn't have built PushPress. It's way too much, way too hard. I'm 12 years into it and I'm at where I thought I would be in 3 years. So it's way harder than you'd think. I would assume that's probably every company out there, but it's difficult.
It's definitely not you and not the industry. It's like that everywhere. Yeah, it takes a whole lot longer than you think. And but that's interesting. I wouldn't think that there would be that many competitors.
They're everywhere.
But that's probably what they think too. So they're like, this is a good space.
And the one thing I will say is fitness and gyms are probably about 100 times bigger than I thought it was when I started this. Like they're everywhere. Okay. I've identified 93 different verticals in fitness alone.
Wow.
There's just so much fitness and fitness adjacent stuff or businesses out there that there's competitors out there that like every day I'm running into a new one and they're like, oh, we've been around for 5 years and we've never heard of PushPress either. So it's just like, it's so big that there's people everywhere working on this problem and don't even run into each other.
Yeah. So is that helpful having that many different verticals and that larger marketplace, or is it easier to get lost in something like that because it is so big?
I think the fallacy most companies make is they try to win all verticals. And man, some of them even try and win outside of our vertical. Like MindBody does salons and spas, hairdressers, massage type places, holistic wellness, recovery, gyms, everything. And the biggest learning I had running a gym was I'm so busy, I can't be bothered seeing a screen that has something that has to do with a wellness center or a hair salon. Like it's just extra stuff that I can't deal with because I'm so busy. And so I think on one hand, it's good because it makes the TAM very attractive for all the different things you can sell to. But I think the allure of selling to them all too fast is probably a big failing point for most of our competitors. Also, speaking the language of every one of those niches is different. So when you talk to a boxing gym, talks about everything in their business very differently than a yoga studio, than a jujitsu studio. So it's if you can't craft a product that's nimble enough and a go-to-market team and a sales team and a marketing website that can talk to all these people in their native language, you're stepping off on the wrong foot to begin with. You can imagine trying to scale across 93 verticals fast is very hard. We've
Yes.
spent multiple years trying to figure out how to go to our second vertical, just in terms of like, how do we talk to them? Where do they show up? What do they look like? What do they need? We've planned that out very meticulously.
That's really smart. How do you decide what to focus on and then avoid distractions, especially in a market that is that competitive and is that broad?
Again, another difficult thing, especially for the shiny object type person who's probably a founder CEO like me. I want everything now.
Me too.
When blockchain came up, I was building a cryptocurrency that would allow you to earn crypto for your gyms. And if I would have pushed too hard into that, it would have been a massive waste of time and energy and gotten zero adoption. And it's tough. I think as the years have gone by, I've gotten better at reevaluating everything. If I find myself saying it 10 times, then it probably needs to end up on a roadmap. It's not even 3 times. Like, I think of things and say things enough times where eventually my team around me is, okay, he said it enough. We have to actually think about that now, because there's so many different things being built that like it's hard to actually have the same idea or keep coming back to the same idea over and over again to that degree.
Yeah. Yeah. So almost like you're really just picking the market you're going after, the vertical, and going really deep, kind of the hedgehog concept.
Hedgehog,
Essentially.
that's another Altos concept, is the hedgehog versus the fox, and they only invest in hedgehog companies. But yeah, basically that. Like we try to really just pay attention to our ICP, and if there's new shiny object that the ICP wants, we have to make sure that this isn't the fad of Q1 and it's actually something that's going to last. And I think part of it is assembling a team around me that understands. And I tell them, I've written a document saying, this is me. These are my flaws. This is what you're going to get from me. And making sure they understand, like, everyone in my company at this point knows I'm going to come to you with an idea. That does not mean we should do it. But if you hear me come to with an idea like repeatedly, obsessively, over and over again, you probably want to start thinking about it. But don't jump at the first sight.
That's really smart. And yeah, as a leader, just not chasing shiny objects, not getting your team in too many different directions. And I know leaders that are like that every week there's a new strategic direction. Yeah. And the team just doesn't know what to do.
That's in terms of features and functionality. I will frequently go to my team and be like, have we thought about this? Are we thinking about this? Have we looked at this? When it comes to strategic direction, I definitely try to make sure like I've got one per year. Like, yeah, it's minted and we all go in that direction, because in my earlier years of being a leader, I probably was changing the strategic direction every month. Oh, now we got to go after this. Oh, now we should be thinking about this. And it just doesn't work.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, if you don't actively put guardrails around yourself, you'll do it. If you're the founder archetype, you're nimble and your ears to the ground and you're paying attention to opportunity, and there's opportunity everywhere every day. So you've got to really build a guardrail against yourself being able to act too quickly on any of those things.
How has your role changed over time? You've been doing this 12 years and the company has grown significantly. Are you still involved like day to day with clients, or how's your role evolved?
I'm not involved day to day with clients per se, or even product. But okay. I am involved, and this is going to be weird, but I am involved every day to day with clients and product, meaning I believe in doing non-scalable things for the things that matter. And to me, the two most important things for our company that matter are building the most amazing product that connects with the needs of our customers, and making sure our customers feel the love and connection that we have for them. And so if I see a customer complaining about something online, I will get on a call with them, like right then and there, because I think everyone in our company, as well as every one of our clients, need to know that I care if something's wrong, and I'm willing to take the time to listen. And that kind of lends into the fact that in order to build the best product for our customers, we have to have an understanding what our customers like and don't like, and what works and doesn't work. And me getting on a 15-minute call with somebody often surfaces a dozen things that I can actually now sit down with the product team and say, this is what the customers are saying. We should be thinking about these things. And honestly, I think the most important thing about it is just the visibility of, I'm not a CEO who's sitting in a suite watching CNBC, and like, I am connected to the heartbeat of this company.
Yeah.
And everyone in the company is expected to be to the tune that I am.
Ready to future-proof your company and scale to new heights? Dive into the ultimate resource designed for SaaS founders and C-suite executives. Champion Leadership Group gives you an unfair advantage in scaling up revenue and outwitting competitors. Imagine solving your biggest scaling headaches and hitting 5, 10, 20 million ARR and beyond with ease. We take away the guesswork and the grunt work and replace it with framework by supporting you with our on-demand fractional C-suite team, a powerful operating system built into software, and a thriving community of fellow scaling founders. That's how we make it happen. If you're stuck at your current revenue level, this is your ticket out. Feel like your company is the world's best kept secret? We amplify your success. And if you're already crushing it but too busy to breathe, we got your back. We'll free up 20% of your time in the first month. Now is the time to upgrade from traction to scale. If you're ready to work smarter and not just grind harder, schedule a 10-minute growth brainstorm. It's completely free, nothing for sale, can't buy anything on the call, and we will pinpoint the number one thing blocking revenue together. Visit championleadership.com. That's where leaders evolve and companies transform. You said something that I think is really unique that I don't want to let go, and that is doing things that don't scale. Not just taking things and putting them on autopilot or automating, but still, even at this stage of the business, being willing to do things that don't scale because it's the right thing for the business, right thing for the customer.
Yeah. I think there's a common fallacy in business that generally teaches you to build scale into everything. But the trade-off to scale is you're removing yourself from being intimately involved in that thing. And so when I look at some of the world's best and this is strictly speaking from you want to build the world's best product. If you want to build a machine that makes a ton of money, you probably just have to build all scale and that's the sacrifice, right? But if you want to build the world's best product that's satisfying your customers' needs to remarkable tune, you look at Steve Jobs, think what you want of him. You look at Elon Musk. I mean, Elon Musk is working 70-hour weeks, sleeping on the assembly room floor, trying to figure out why the robotics is not working correctly on the machinery. Steve Jobs is like going into Apple stores, secret shopping his own Apple stores.
Yeah.
You have to do stuff that does not make sense in order to really understand what's happening. And I don't think anyone should be above that for the stuff that matters for the company. And that's where culture and objectives and direction all matter. Because if you don't set that, nobody knows where we should be like being obsessive and where we can cut corners.
This is so good. So it's prioritizing customer value over just bottom line revenue.
Well, that's our direction. It's not wrong to just say bottom line revenue is all we care about or top line revenue is all we care. Like every company can have their own direction.
It's a choice.
Yeah. But you have to culturally align your actions with the direction you've set. You can't say customer value is the most important thing and then always harp on everyone about efficiency because you're giving up efficiency to do that. That's the trade-off.
Yeah, so having that alignment.
Even to the tune of, I'll tell you this, in SaaS, we're expected to have a gross margin of 75 to 85%.
Right.
Our gross margin is 70 to 73. And I've just told my board, expect it, because I'm always going to overhire on CX team because the faster answers get resolved, the more happy our customers are. The more happy our customers are, the easier our sales process is, our funnel is, everything. So we're not going to have an 85% efficiency. That's not the company we are. And you've got to look at the trade-offs you're making and get everyone aligned on it and okay with it. If my board wasn't okay with it, then we would have to reconsider our culture. But the reason I chose them as an investor is they're customer first. So they are okay with it. All these pieces of alignment have to happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just goes back to making the right choices of what partners you take on, that they really do have that same alignment. Because even if you trade it off and say, okay, we're going to get to 85%, now what happens? Probably churn. Especially if they've had such a great experience now, then an average experience is going to feel really bad.
Yeah. And honestly, not only churn, we would have employee churn because we have a team that is built around the idea that we burn the extra mile for our customers. And when I say, no, we don't do that anymore, and we don't need a 10-minute SLA on answering a question, it can go to 2 days, then culturally, we've got the wrong team now. Like, it will affect a lot of downstream stuff if we change that culturally.
That's so good. Just making sure that team is in alignment with your core values and really building that culture, that they hold that standard, which I would think would be very freeing as a leader when you know that your team sees that and they have full buy-in and they're all in on holding that standard. It
And,
seems
and to
like,
me,
you're
again,
not having to beat it into them.
I think a lot of this is just cheat code stuff that like I look at the world and I'm like, I'm not smarter than anybody that I compete against. But the fact that like we recruit people, like nobody joins a company to make more money for the company. Nobody
Right.
wants to be an employee of a company where all you're doing is just grinding out revenue. People join companies because they believe in the product, they believe in the mission, they believe in the customer. That's it.
Yeah.
And so it's just so easy to say, we believe in the product, we believe in the mission, we believe in the customer. Go do those things, as opposed to, oh no, we believe in the product, we believe in the customer, we believe in the mission, but you need to make more money. Like that misalignment happens in every company I see out there. And I just don't understand like how and why that happens. But yeah, I just think we're not smarter than anyone. And we just do what we say and we say what we do. And those things actually matter to everyone that wants to work here.
Yeah. Yeah. What other strategies have helped PushPress scale without compromising on customer happiness or core values?
I could tell you what we did that did sacrifice happiness
Sure.
and core values. And it was when we went through this phase of we raised our Series A. We wanted to build product faster. So we hired a whole bunch of product and engineering team people. I don't think we onboarded them. I don't think we set them up for success. I don't think we had the infrastructure in place to move faster, but we gave them the mandate. We want to get to a point where we're pushing code every day. And it was this top-down approach of just saying, this is where you're going to get to, blew up for us because it's almost, I don't know, you hire a team of people who are capable, but not prepared or instrumented, or they don't have the right tooling. We don't have the right sophistication, and just telling them to do something that like a Navy SEAL team would do. And it absolutely imploded. So we had a 6-month period where it was like every day we just push more bugs. And since we didn't have a direction of having a world-class product, we had a direction of push code faster. We pushed more bugs, but there was no one fixing bugs. So it was just like lighting your whole company on fire, basically, just because you decide you want to move faster. So we had to unwind that and basically say, okay, now we are pushing no value, and we're going to fix all the bugs for the next 6 months. And then we have to rethink how we're going to do everything from there. That was one of the bigger, like we wasted a whole year of our company.
Wow.
And hired a whole bunch of people that ended up probably not being the greatest fit once we realized like it's quality over quantity. And then once you have the quality, you increase speed. We just went straight full throttle, which was just a bad idea.
That's really insightful. Just thinking about that, it's the wrong metric. And I think this happens in a lot of companies where you pick the wrong thing and then there are unintended consequences. Pushing code every day is not necessarily a bad idea.
It's
but if
the
it
right
sacrifices
idea.
other things.
Yeah, it honestly is the right idea. Like today, that's still our goal, but it's not like for some reason we're gonna try and push code every day, and then the next week we were pushing code every day. It's like, no, this is gonna take 2 years to get to the point where our infrastructure can support it. And this is just the learning curves you go through as a leader. Like there are, like you said, there's a lot of unintended consequences that happen from the right idea if you don't approach it, if you don't tactically deploy this. And so that's some of the bigger learning moments I've had personally.
Yeah. What steps do you take in identifying and nurturing leadership talent within the team? And why is that a priority? I know we talked about that, promoting from within.
I'm pausing because I'm not 100% sure if the promoting from within is it definitely is not 100% the only and best strategy.
Okay.
And so we had this stair-stepping effect of no help, any help that would join the company. And it's part of the brand thing too. Can you pull someone over from Facebook or pull someone over from Flexport when you're an unknown startup that has $1 million in funding that could go away tomorrow? No. So you have to stair-step through this process of we had no help. We had any ragtag person who would just join us because they would. Then we started to get a little bit better quality, but we didn't have the organization around them. And you go through these phases where it's every single one of them causes different problems. And for instance, if we had raised $10 million on day one, you can actually go and get a seasoned engineering leader from a company. It's like the choices are different.
Sure.
I found personally in our company, our biggest step function changes have been when we hired from outside people that congrued with our culture, philosophy, and direction. but brought a level of experience and expertise that would have taken someone a decade internally making mistakes to learn. And those people with the right mindset, basically, we're adopting now a pretty high indexing on talent density. So this was actually just told to me in a meeting I had right before this, which is actually a really cool concept. One of our interns or one of our team members, he's getting an MBA at Stanford, and someone came in and talked to them. And that person told him, if you pick a company with high talent density, it doesn't even matter what job you take, you will become better. You could be an intern there and you'll be surrounded by so many amazing people. You'll have more experience and you'll get better experience than if you took a VP role at a garbage company. So talent density is like the number one thing to index on, because everyone's making everyone better. And you're getting the biggest gains out of the people who have the least experience, because they're able to just absorb amazing talent, amazing ways of thinking, amazing strategy from people. And in 2 years, they can just level up so quick. So there is something to both bringing in the core talent density that can create the snowball of more talent density, but then also that allows you to level up the people everywhere around. So it's a little bit of both.
I like that. That's a great answer. And from the outside looking in, if you don't have unlimited budget, what is the best way to create that talent density and hire the best people at the level that you are?
Yeah. So part of this is definitely a founder's job. Like, you've got to be able to create the story and the mission. Like, the only chance you have at getting someone who's raises the bar in your company, and ideally if you're new, you'll probably raise the bar significantly, is you get someone who's willing to buy into all of the non-financial aspects of your company, right? And so for PushPress, we have an advantage there, because there's a lot of fitness related people who really want to work on helping the world become healthier. So there's a mission intrinsic value that can be bundled into the whole offer. But in order to do this when you're bootstrapped or you have less money, you've got to nail that story. You've got to get someone emotionally bought into your mission, liking the culture, liking you, liking the prospects of working with you, because more than likely they're going to come in at a pay cut from what they're doing now. And that even happens for us. Like, we've raised $20 million, but the people coming over are like leaving Meta and their $500,000 a year job to take a job with us that's paying significantly less, but still quite a bit of money, but less than what Meta will overpay them. And they're doing it because of the mission, right? And or the opportunity. The other thing I would warn people against is, as you're hiring your initial core team, do not overtitle them. Another mistake I made. Because an easy way to say, hey, like, you're making $450K wherever you are now, and we can only afford to pay you $180, but I'll make you the CTO. And the downside of that is, more than likely, whoever that is, who's willing to come over from 180, is not your CTO of the future. And you're going to have to fire them, because that is the last position on the rung, or demote them. Either way, it's a terrible outcome for the person. It's much easier to say, I will make you a VP of engineering, leave the room on top of them where you can hire an SVP or a CTO, but also give them the opportunity of saying, if we can achieve these things in the next 18 months, there is a path for you to become SVP. So you buy yourself the optionality. The mistake I made was everyone got a C title who was an early person in this company. And then that very thing happened, where it's, okay, now we have money and we need to up level, and you're really doing that person a disservice. If they're really like a VP level or even a really good IC, they can't learn from anybody if you can't put anyone above them. And there's no way they can get better if you can't put anyone above them. It's actually doing them a disservice too, the fact that there is no room to put anyone above them, and a massive ego hit, and or you create weird pay scale issues where you're like, you used to be the CTO making 250, now I'm going to make you a VP, but the VP should only be making, I'm just making up numbers, 215. So now when the next leader comes in, they're like, why are we overpaying this VP? Because they don't understand the context of it. Like, it creates all of these organizational problems. Just, I would title appropriately from the get-go. Sorry for that probably 5-minute rant there, but that was a big learning curve thing that I went through.
That's a really good one, because I've made that exact same mistake before. And it was for the same reason. It seems like a good idea at the time until it isn't. And then you have to have those really hard conversations, and some good people walk out the door because there's no future for them. They just don't see it and they don't really want to take a demotion. That's a really tough place to be.
Yeah. If there's one thing I could say as a leader, what you should try to do is set yourself up for easier conversations down the road. Like overtitling people, 100% automatically will always create a hard conversation down the road that's painful for everyone involved. It could include pay cuts, demotion of title, letting someone go. There's no good outcome from that. But in the short term, it's easy. In the long term, it creates problems.
Yeah. So when you're hiring somebody and bringing them in, how do you make sure that they're aligned with that mission and vision and still fostering innovation and contributing and moving the company forward?
Yeah, man, I'll be honest. So a lot of these things I'm talking about, we learned in the last 2 years. So it's funny. I was just writing an annual recap to our investors, and it's unbelievable to me that like that investor I was telling you about who invested, our first investor, invested in 2021. Yes. So it's been 3 years since he's invested in our safe round, but I feel like it's been a decade because we've learned so much. So hold on, I'm trying to remember what your question was. Oh, how do you get people aligned with the mission? So we didn't learn this until 6 months ago when I brought in a new engineering leader. He came from Amazon and he brought Amazon hiring practices with him. So before that, we did not have a very good hiring practice at all. He brought a level of structure, and this is why like hiring from the outside helps and I specifically chose him because I've been studying Amazon and I wanted to bring Amazon hiring practices, bar raising concepts into our company. Part of our hiring loops, we didn't have this concept of a loop before, which is basically like you talk to 8 people in our company and everyone has a very specific purpose for what their conversation is. It's not just a general interview. You're talking about culture. You're talking about regression testing of QA. It's like everyone has a very finite thing that they're digging into. And part of the loop is culture and mission. And if we don't get the sense that this person is genuinely has a chip on their shoulder about fitness or small business, and ideally both, they don't pass. They do not get and it's one of the first things we qualify on, because if you're not mission and vision aligned and value aligned, there is no path for you in this company at all. And it's just better just to not tempt ourselves with a really good candidate who just does not align with the way we see the world.
Yeah. It's so good to have that line in the sand, because I've made that mistake where it's not really a line, but they're really good. And it always turned out to be a disaster. And I should have known early on, but I took the bait.
Yeah, it's tough. It is really tough when you see a very highly qualified candidate who will raise the bar, but nobody will raise the bar if they're causing friction, like unnecessary friction or drama, or they just don't align with if our whole thing is on customer value and this person only wants to grow revenue, there's going to be some conflict down the road. Yeah. Because we're going to keep saying we don't want to do that. We know we're not doing that, and it's going to not be good. But yeah, I think the most important thing you have to really qualify on is, and again, this goes back to prep. You have to know what you stand for. You shouldn't have generic ass core values that just like stuff they really have to be things that you will hire and fire against. And you have to know where you're going and what your mission is. And all these things have to be solidified before you can even ask someone to interview against it, because that person interviewing against it has to believe it too. Right. And in the early days, it'll be you, the founder, but eventually it'll be other people picking up on, I don't really think that they believe in this stuff, because they're trying to defend it as well.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've had some really good hires. And one of the things that I've seen in other companies is, especially early stage, is they'll start looking for or really get stars in their eyes from people who have come from big companies, like you said, Amazon or Meta, Google, things like that. And they look at it like, oh, this person has got to be awesome. And they make hires and not necessarily the best fits. How have you looked at that, and how do you balance the shiny people, like shiny objects, versus really making sure that you have the right fit for the right stage of the company to move you forward?
I think a lot of it, again, it has to do with that loop process that we run.
Very smart.
Sure there's probably a lot of information out there I know there is because I was reading about it, but the Amazon way, how Amazon does things, there's a lot of information about that. And being very intentional about your hiring and what kind of questions you're asking and how you're double clicking into the things that they're telling you. And I think if I can give a piece of advice on the interviewing process, that's it. Most people will be like, oh, tell me about a time you did X. And you'll just be like, okay, cool. And now tell me a time you did Y. But you really want to like triple click into everything they ask you, because you'd be amazed how many times I've found a liar. Once you go, oh, wow, you helped raise their Series C. Like, who did you lead that? Tell me about what part of the process you played in that. Oh, when you were accumulating the data, what challenges did you have? And you'll just watch them fall apart real quick, or really stand up and show like, I know this real quick.
Yeah.
So it's not even a double click. It's you've got to keep asking questions until you feel a sense of, okay, they really know what they're talking about here. Because in an interview, everyone's incentivized to just tell you what you want to hear.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And it sounds like not being starstruck with where they came from, really making sure that they are the right fit for the role, digging deeper.
Let me tell you about this. This is actually something everyone should watch. This might be dating this episode because maybe it'll get fixed, but you cannot actually be starstruck on anything that they tell you because everyone lies. So we've had 2 hires come in. One of them actually got a job offer and had a computer shipped to them before we figured it out. I think they were probably from somewhere in East Asia. They said they were in like Massachusetts and Atlanta.
Okay.
They stole someone's identity. They told us that they graduated from a college and they doctored all their information. They lied about everywhere that they worked. They passed all of the loop, which means they know what they're talking about. But what we've come to surmise is, looking back now, there was one hire that we actually fired years ago that probably did this to us too, and I'll tell you why in a second. But what they're doing is they're taking 10 jobs, and then they're fivering out, or they're somehow subcontracting out the work. They do sub-quality work for a year or 2 until you figure it out. You fire them. They've stolen $500,000 from the company, and they've done this to 10 companies simultaneously.
Yeah.
One guy we put on a performance improvement plan because his code was terrible. So this is the crazy thing. Gets through the interview, flying colors, passes a coding test, flying colors, gets on the job, subpar coding. Took us 3 months to figure that out, put him on a PIP. 2 months later, let him go. Termination stuff happens. Graciously is terminated, returns our computer to us. When it gets to us, it's another company's computer. It wasn't even ours.
Oh, wow.
So that's how we figured out, like, oh, he's working multiple jobs, and he got confused which computer to even return. He didn't even know. So you have to be super diligent when you're hiring, because there's just straight up fraud happening right now where people are just lying.
Yeah. Yeah, we had an incident similar like that, and from development as well, remote. And we call them 3 penguins in a trench coat, because it was like one person pretending to be multiple people, and just craziness.
Yeah. Either they're hiring someone to do the interview. I think couple of them, they paid someone to do the interviews for them, who was like American speaking. And then when they actually, like, when we dealt with someone else for the onboarding, it was like someone else. But it was like, they're dealing with so many different people. No one really knows that it's like completely different person. So they both were of Asian descent, but like one had a different accent than the other. It was like, when we're piecing together, we're like, now we see the signals. So now it's like the way we actually do if it's a certain job, it's full background check. And we're actually like asking a lot of rooting questions to make sure we understand who this person is.
Yeah. Even the background check, you have to make sure it's the right person, not stolen identity. That's who would have thought.
The most recent person did that, completely stole someone's identity, said that they worked everywhere that this person worked, gave us that person's address, like full stolen identity. We were only able to piece it together because we called that person's spouse as a background check, and they're like, oh no, he's not looking for a job right now. That's the only way we figured that one out. So it's absolutely insane what's happening out there right now.
Yeah. Well, where can people learn more about you and about PushPress online?
You can find more about me at pushpress.com/Dan. I do generally try to be a resource for business and CEOing and all the challenges I've gone through, the stuff we're talking about here. Like, I try to put out reels. I'm on Instagram. I think my Instagram, I always forget my Instagram handle. I think it's Danielson, like the Karate Kid guy. But you can find it at pushpress.com/Dan. So I try to put out as much as I can, helping in general, because man, nobody helped me, and it's been a long slog, and as much as I can help give back, the better. pushpress.com. If you're a gym owner and you want to check it out, feel free. We're here to help. Or if you're on Instagram, DM me, and you'll probably see me doing some unscalable stuff right back at you.
That's awesome. We'll make sure and link that in the show notes. Dan, great conversation, amazing insights. Thank you for being on SaaS Fuel.
Thank you for having me. It was super fun.
Thanks again, Dan, for coming on the show and sharing your journey and insights. You can learn more about Dan and PushPress at pushpress.com. As always, all links, highlights, resources, and full show notes are available at saasfuel.com. And be sure to check us out on YouTube as well. It's at Champion Leadership is our channel. We have full video episodes, shorts, outtakes, trainings, lots of stuff out there for you. And thought leaders, share this episode with your favorite team lead who has a spreadsheet for their spreadsheets. Anybody know somebody like that? Well, everyone who shares this week gets a one-use only time machine that exclusively takes you back to your most awkward group meeting. Relive the magic, the metrics, and the moment somebody accidentally got their Zoom filter stuck in cat mode. Are you losing sales by jumping to solutions too soon? Join us Thursday on our SaaS Fuel Expert Series, where my guest is Teresa French. She's sharing her proven 360-degree revenue generation system that can transform your sales conversations into unstoppable quota-crushing results. It's a great way to end the year and think about what's coming up. We can avoid assumptions, go deep, and add rocket fuel to your sales cycle. Hearing a lot about sales cycles extending lately. And join me Tuesday for our special Christmas episode. I'll actually share an unexpected and wild experience I had last month at the southern border of the US and some lessons for us as leaders. Probably not what you think. I will see you next time. And as always, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to SaaS Fuel. Full show notes for each episode, which includes a summary, key takeaways, quotes, and any resources mentioned, are available at saasfuel.com. Be sure to follow and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you're enjoying the content and getting value from these episodes, please leave us a rating and review at ratethispodcast.com/saasfuel. We'll be sure to read these out on future episodes.
Let's go!